Mark Levin here. The post-election economy could be a minefield of inflation, massive debt, and currency instability. That's why I count on gold for my financial protection. When it comes to gold, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're one of the top gold companies in America, and that's who I turn to for my own investments. Call them now, 800-900-8000, for a free gold investment kit, and see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Don't wait and see if post-election chaos destroys your savings. Act preemptively. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Welcome, America. I hope many of you have voted. If you haven't, now's the perfect time. It's Friday. This weekend's the perfect time. Tens of millions of people are doing it. They can't all be wrong. And you know what? I have a feeling that if you vote early, it's more likely that your vote will be counted. We've already heard from Pennsylvania. They say it could take 4 days to get ultimate results because they don't start counting till the polls close. Unlike Florida and Georgia that count as the voting comes in. We've already heard from Phoenix, a.k.a. Maricopa County. It might take them a week. You believe these places? Now we heard from Michigan. It may take them several days past the election. So on election night, everybody's going to be commenting on what they know, but they won't be able to comment on what they don't know, will they? Well, this is the big week, maybe 10 days, 11 days left, where the Democrats are obsessed with Adolf Hitler and fascism. I addressed this on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Saturday. I addressed it on Sunday. I exposed the Democrat Party for being the party today of the neo-Nazis. That's right. The anti-Semites, the Jew haters, the Israel haters, they're the modern-day neo-Nazis. I mean, you hear Netanyahu, you hear Israelis, you hear Jews in this country, and you hear me. You've heard of what happened on October 7th as the worst genocide since the Holocaust. And you've heard me talk about these terrorists as Nazis, the Hamas Nazis, the Hezbollah Nazis, the Iranian Nazis. Because that's what they are. And so when Kamala Harris uses blood libels against the Israeli Jews, when she embraces the Hamas civilian death numbers and blames Israel rather than Hamas, when she refuses to undertake her responsibility as vice president to sit at the front with the Speaker of the House when the head of state speaks, in this case Netanyahu, but boycotts him and only him, when she surrounds herself with these Islamist anti-Semites, when her best friend, it turns out, is one of them, when her pastor is another Jew hater, I mean, these people don't just collect around somebody because they want jobs, they want influence. It's because there's pretty much agreement. So the neo-Nazis are in the modern-day Democrat Party. Tlaib, Omar, AOC, yes, even Bernie Sanders and his ilk. The party that cuts off arms from Israel as they're preparing to fight Iran. And as they are fighting Hamas and Hezbollah, who go on TV and trash the state of Israel and trash the IDF and trash the elected prime minister. They're the neo-Nazis. The Democrat Party is the home of the neo-Nazis. That's correct. Jerry Wartsky is a Auschwitz survivor. He's a Holocaust survivor. He's 94 years old. 94 years old. And he hears this talk about Hitler. He hears Hillary Clinton talking about 1939. Hillary Clinton, who doesn't talk about 2024. 1939, when the neo-Nazis were at Madison Square Garden. And then she wants you to believe that when patriotic Americans who love their country, love the Constitution, love liberty, many of whom are in the military and fight against tyranny. Now MAGA is neo-Nazi, according to her. Hillary Clinton, in the last half century, and this is a big statement, is the most vile, cancerous, poisonous public figure in the United States of America in the last half century. And there's a lot of lowlives, as you well know. But I want you to listen carefully, Mr. Producer. Ramp up the volume, and you folks should raise your volume too. I want you to listen to what this Holocaust survivor has to say. Cut one, go.
My name is Jerry Wartsky. I'm 94 years old and survivor of Auschwitz and the death marches. Adolf Hitler invaded Poland when I was 9 years old. He murdered my parents and most of our family. I know more about Hitler than Kamala will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes. For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I've ever heard in my 75 years living in the United States. I know President Trump, and he would never say this, and Kamala Harris knows this. She owes my parents and everybody else who was murdered by Hitler an apology for repeating this lie.
Why should the Jewish people support President Trump?
Because he's a mensch. I believe that President Trump is definitely going to be good for Israel because in everything that he's done up to now was in favor. He never double-crossed anyone, and he never showed any weakness. Watching President Trump pray for the hostages at the Ohel and getting to spend time with him so meaningful. He has always stood with the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
What about what the man has to say? Which is 100% correct. Yeah, what about it? It's pretty disgusting what these people are doing. It's a campaign of character assassination. Harris is literally advocating for more of this. She was asked by, Fox's Jackie Heinrich about the Mitch McConnell and Mike Johnson letter, which I'll get to later, calling on her to quit the fascist rhetoric or else risk inviting another assassination attempt on Trump. And you know what she does? She doubles down. I'm going to call him out for what he is. I think I'm the only one that's ever told you that most of the people in the media today and most of the people in the Democrat Party leadership, the apparatchiks, the ruling class, they weren't all that upset that Donald Trump survived 2 assassination attempts. They really weren't. They use these words, Hitler and fascist and all the rest of it. They know they're stoking the worst of the worst. They know the possibility exists that somebody else will take action against Donald Trump. And they keep doing it. They do the same with Netanyahu. They do the same with Supreme Court justices, but especially with Trump. Especially with Trump. Look what they've done to the man already with lawfare, the endless character assassination, the impeachments. Look already what's taking place. George Washington University Law Center. There's a woman there, a professor. She's heading an operation that if Donald Trump's elected, to lead efforts to sabotage his presidency, his administration. In Congress, Jamie Raskin, whose father was a Soviet Red, just as he is. Just as he is. He was involved in every challenge for every Republican since, the last 20 years or so. And Jamie the Red has already said that he will move to impeach Donald Trump should he win election and do everything he can to stop him. They're the ones who don't accept elections. They're the ones who don't accept the Constitution. They're a grave danger to this society, and they don't care. They are violent. They point to January 6th. Harris is going to stand there on January 6th, where Donald Trump did, and tell you that he's a threat to America. A threat to America. Sending the signal out to the prosecutors, to the Department of Justice, to their Democrat judges like Chutkan, and this woman Giles. Giles, the most radical judge in the Eastern District of Virginia, who rules that, yes, non-citizens have a right to be on the voting rolls, twists the law to accommodate the Department of Justice, which has twisted the law to accommodate the Democrat Party. They want non-citizens to vote. They don't want voter ID. The border's open for a reason, and it's not good government. Kamala Harris has nothing to recommend her for the presidency. She's vapid. She's dumb. She's a radical. She's lying to the American people. It's the most diabolical and evil campaign in American history. That's what it is. And so she gets this letter from Mitch McConnell and Mike Johnson, a public letter saying, please cut it out. And she doubles down. She doubles down. And she's going to do it again on January 6th. She's not going to stand in front of the Portland, Oregon courthouse that was under attack by Antifa and Black Lives Matter and others for 2 months straight. She's not going to stand in front of the land where the police precinct used to exist in Minneapolis that was burned to the ground, thanks to her running mate, who wouldn't call in the National Guard at the request of the Democrat Party mayor. No, she won't stand in any of these places because that's the militia of the Democrat Party at work, just like the Islamists, a.k.a. the neo-Nazis, chasing Jews in colleges and universities, attacking Jews who are exercising their free speech in New York and L.A., attacking synagogues with swastikas and so forth. This is Hillary Clinton's America. This is Kamala Harris's America. This is Jamie Raskin's America, Tlaib's America. It's not our America. It's not our America. Madison Square Garden, all of a sudden, it's only remembered for 1939 when the neo-Nazis were there. Gee, I wonder if Joe Kennedy Sr. was there. He was a neo-Nazi. He supported the Third Reich and Hitler. It was so bad that his ambassador to Britain, FDR, had to yank him. And there were Democrat senators who also worked hard pressuring Hollywood not to run movies about Hitler. Piece done by the Daily Bestiality there. Remember that Daily Bestiality? Think very quiet about that. And then there was Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt, who purposely prevented Jews from immigrating to the United States from Europe. He kept the cap on. It wasn't a matter of increasing the number. It was a matter of allowing the number that had been provided for by law. 90% of the Jews that were provided by law that could have come here were prevented. He had an opportunity when they were bombing Auschwitz. When they were bombing the railroad tracks, to bomb the tracks that were going into Auschwitz and Auschwitz itself. He chose not to. He encouraged the New York Times not to do stories on the Holocaust, so they didn't. The New York Times will do more stories in the coming 48 hours on a Madison Square Garden rally of patriotic Americans, of people who want to make America great again. They'll do more stories on that than they did throughout the Holocaust on the extermination of the Jews. I'm on to these people. I'm going to talk to them on my opening statement and all about them on Saturday night and on Sunday night after the rally at Madison Square Garden. The Democrats don't run on campaigns to tell the American people what they really believe. They lie. They hate the country. They hate our patriots. They hate our monuments. They hate our founders and our framers. They hate our military. They hate the cops. They hate patriotic Americans, hardworking Americans. They hate you. Those of you who support Trump, those of you who are voting for Trump, those of you who attend these events, they want it to be said that you're neo-Nazis. That's what they want. That's what they want. Here we have Donald Trump, a Jewish son-in-law, a daughter who converted to Orthodox Judaism, 3 Jewish grandchildren. Here we have Donald Trump, who signed the only executive order to protect Jewish students under the 1964 Civil Rights Act from violence and intimidation. Bill Clinton didn't sign that. Obama didn't sign that. Biden didn't sign it. It was Trump. And a long list of things that Trump has done to support the state of Israel, the Jewish homeland, the Holy Land. Obama didn't do it. Bill Clinton didn't do it. And Kamala Harris is busy cozying up to Iran, is busy cozying up to the violent Palestinians, while she trashes the Israelis and seeks the support from the Jew haters in our own country, whether they be in Dearborn, Michigan, or elsewhere. They're the neo-Nazis. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The upcoming election isn't just about choosing leaders. It's about bracing for the economic fallout that could follow. You know, history shows that post-election periods can bring economic turmoil. But this time, with our national debt skyrocketing and global tensions rising, we could be facing unprecedented risks. We could see runaway inflation or even a currency crisis. That's why I encourage people to diversify and look at gold as a financial safety net. Gold has been said to be a reliable wealth shield for thousands of years through some of the worst economic storms. And for my gold investments, I trust Advantage Gold. They're who I buy from exclusively, and I recommend them to anyone serious about helping to protect their wealth. You can call them right now at 800-900-8000, 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. You can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be happy you did. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. But they keep at it. Begin to wonder if they don't want Donald Trump harmed, don't you, Mr. Producer? So here's Hillary Clinton yesterday, who is a hemorrhoidic. She's a bleeding hemorrhoid on the body politic. Always has been. Cut 2, go.
And, you know, one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book.
Nobody read your stupid book. Go ahead.
Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. So I don't think we can ignore it.
Yeah, I don't think we can ignore it. As our friend Jimmy from Brooklyn said yesterday, notice how the Marxists always claim to represent democracy and call their opponents fascists. Folks, we may be standing on the precipice of a post-election economic meltdown. Any election can send shockwaves through our financial system, but this time, the stakes could be higher than ever. Reckless spending, mounting debt, misguided policies has set the stage for potential economic disaster. We can see rapid inflation or even attempts to undermine our currency. That's why I've always relied on diversification and gold for protection. It's been said to be a timeless safeguard against economic chaos, and in these uncertain times, it's more crucial than ever. ever. When it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold exclusively. They're one of the top gold companies in America, and they're who I turn to for my own investments. Call 800-900-8000 right now for a free gold investment kit to see how gold can help protect you from post-election chaos. You might even qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
We have two incredibly important and big, powerful shows as we get closer to Election Day, the formal day, although many of us have voted. And tomorrow night on Life, Liberty, and Levin, we have Ted Cruz and Katie Pavlich. They're fantastic, but in my opening statement, you are definitely not going to want to miss this. So if you're not sure if you're going to watch it live, please set your DVR, whatever recording device you have on your smart TV or so forth, because I go right into the middle of this Hitler campaign strategy that they're using. And I explain exactly who Hitler is, exactly what he did, exactly who the sympathizers were. I get into this General Kelly in great detail. I get into this whole propaganda effort by the Democrat Party and their media, and how un-American it is, how devious it is, how diabolical and evil it is, and how dangerous it is. But that's who these people are. You must remember that the Democrat Party has never accepted our traditions and norms and our values. The Democrat Party as an institution has never accepted our country. That's correct. The Democrat Party has never accepted our Constitution. The Democrat Party held on to slavery to the bitter end. They fought a war over it. They caused a war over it, the Civil War. They were very much prepared to burn down our country and divide our country and break it to pieces. And it was we, the Republicans, who had to put an end to it. That's the real history. It's the Democrat Party, even after the Civil War and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, which they hoped would prevent reconciliation. And it did for a long time. But they persisted in their racism with segregation, separate but equal is equal. That's what the Supreme Court decided. Just as the Supreme Court had decided that slavery was constitutional before the Civil War. And I want to remind you, it's the Democrat Party all through the early 1900s that pushed Jim Crow. The Democrat Party, these aren't Republican governors, these aren't Republican senators, these aren't Republicans. They're all Democrats. And now the Democrats embrace the Hitler propaganda in their Hitler campaign strategy. That's what's going on here. Let us be abundantly clear. Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, the neo-Nazis in their party, Tlaib, Omar, much of their media, Bernie Sanders, that's right. I hope one of these bastards sues me. I really do. Do you know what kind of discovery I'm going to conduct? They have no idea who they're messing around with. No idea. I'm not kidding. I'll own them, and I'll own everything they own. I'll do to them what they've done to Rudy Giuliani. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. But that said, let us be clear. Kamala Harris has decided that the Hitler campaign strategy is the only way she can win. That's it. Here's Eric Swalwell on CNN today. Just listen to this puke. Listen to this guy cheating on his wife, humiliating his family and his children with a communist Chinese spy. That this guy's on CNN and he's not walking around the country with a bag over his head as a homeless person is shocking. It tells you what the Democrat Party will tolerate. Cut 3, go.
John, he's also in cognitive decline. And in that ad, Donald
Trump's not in any kind of cognitive decline. These are the people who covered up for Joe Biden for 4 or 5 years, who obviously had dementia. And so now they call Trump cognitive decline. This is the party. This is the party who did nothing to lift the finger I lift a finger. For Jews during the Holocaust, their newspaper of record covered it up, censored it. This is the party that's running around calling everybody Hitler. I'm glad the Fox people are using this Washington Examiner piece on how many times they view Hitler. We've talked about that for years, have we not, Mr. Producer? How many presidents and Republican candidates and others they've called Hitler, and I'm going to do some of that on Saturday, but understand, I'm not copying anybody, they're copying me. And that's okay. And that's okay. Because we need to get this out. But here's this lowlife, this puke, this pervert. Eric Swalwell, go ahead.
A little too on the nose, the way that he's acted in the last week, standing almost completely frozen on stage.
He's obviously watching somebody differently than we are, isn't he? He obviously is. Frozen on the stage. So when he dances on the stage, two people fall ill. They have to get doctors. It's taking 10, 15, 20 minutes to deal with them. So he says, well, let's play the music. So they're dancing. They're having a good time. That's cognitive decline, you see. They compare that to Joe Biden. This is a grotesque group of people that run this party now. They're disgusting. Disgusting. They've purified their party of any so-called moderates. They're trying to purify their party of anybody who actually loves this country. They've purified their party of people who support Israel, replacing them with Islamists and neo-Nazis. That's what this party's doing, and they're trying to drag the country down. That's why she lies about abortion. It upsets all these women who don't know any better because they don't listen to this show and they don't watch me on Fox. That she has no intention of replacing Roe v. Wade. She opposes Roe v. Wade. What she wants is abortion when the baby's in the birth canal. That's infanticide. That's murder. What she wants, and Tim Walz actually voted for as governor, is if there's a botched abortion, the baby is left to die. That's what he voted for, and that's what happens in Minnesota. Those are the facts. You parents out there, you want parental involvement? Well, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris don't believe it. They believe that you should have genitalia, reassignment operations, and so forth and so on without notifying parents. That's why she picked Tim Walz, because that's the law in the state of Minnesota. They don't want to discuss this. And if you ask me, that sounds like the Third Reich. Parents having no notification when their children's genitalia change. To me, that sounds like the Third Reich. To me, medically killing babies who are in the birth canal, to me, that sounds like the Third Reich. To me, allowing babies to die on steel tables after botched abortions, to me, that sounds like the Third Reich. To me, no parental involvement or notification when their children are given abortions by the state, to me, that sounds like the Third Reich. How about that, America? We got more Swalwell. I'm in no mood to listen to this punk. Then we got Obama. Obama, who shows up to tell black men what they're supposed to do. He has no role in their life. He's living not like a millionaire, like a man that's worth $200 million. The white dominant society, as the CRT crowd calls it, the white supremacist society, as the 1619 crowd calls it, has been very nice to Obama, very good to Obama. It's called Hollywood. They've given them tens of millions of dollars. For what? And so where do they move? Where do they buy homes? Where do they buy homes? They don't go back to their roots. They buy homes where there's very few black people or minorities, period. Martha's Vineyard? They buy mansions and they have walls around them. The hypocrisy is beyond belief. Then he goes, he drops in, he parachutes in for Kamala Harris. And what does he tell young black men? You're misogynist. Excuse me? Yeah. You should be voting for a black woman. Don't think for yourself. We don't do that in the Democrat Party. We identify by ethnicity and race. That's it. Not by substance. Get with the program. Then they bring Bruce Springsteen into Atlanta. Now, there's a guy that looks like he's having issues. Bruce Springsteen? Joe Scarborough goes on. Oh, yeah. Now, I notice that these Kamala Harris events, these big events, they need these, these singers, they need Hollywood, these actors to fill up the stadium. And I also saw in Atlanta, my wife sent me this, that as soon as the entertainment was done and it was time for Kamala Harris to speak, the place emptied out. Now, there's video of this. The media haven't reported on it. The place emptied out. That's the truth. That's what happened. But you watch. The New York Times and the media will spend more time talking about Madison Square Garden. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of Jews there. My buddy Sid is one of the people introducing President Trump. Oh, yes, Sid's Jewish. How about that? Well, there must be something wrong with Sid, right? No, there's something wrong with the critics. They will spend more time talking about that than they ever reported on the Holocaust. They'll talk about January 6th till they're blue in the face. But they won't talk about the deaths, the murder, the rapes in our cities as a result of Democrat mayors undermining cops, as a result of illegal aliens coming through the border. They won't talk about all the women, mostly of color, who are sold into sex slavery. Will they? We know it's a massive problem now. They won't talk about the 325,000 children that are missing, most of whom are brown and black-skinned. They won't talk about them, will they? No, it's going to be January 6th. And the people who want to destroy the Constitution, the Electoral College, the people who want to destroy the independence of the Supreme Court, the people who are attacking our First Amendment, Second Amendment rights, due process, equal protection, the people who want to undermine separation of powers. They're there on January 6th, right? They want to talk on Tuesday, she does, about how they believe in democracy and Donald Trump is a threat as they try to put him in prison. And by God, if they win this election, he's going to prison. This is who they are. If this doesn't motivate you to vote, to get your friends out to vote, to take a more active role than you normally do, nothing will. Nothing will. Nothing I can say beyond my statements of fact. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The upcoming election isn't just about choosing leaders. It's about bracing for the economic fallout that could follow. You know, history shows that post-election periods can bring economic turmoil. But this time, with our national debt skyrocketing and global tensions rising, we could be facing unprecedented risks. We could see runaway inflation or even a currency crisis. That's why I encourage people to diversify and look at gold as a financial safety net. Gold has been said to be a reliable wealth shield for thousands of years through some of the worst economic storms. And for my gold investments, I trust Advantage Gold. They're who I buy from exclusively, and I recommend them to anyone serious about helping to protect their wealth. You can call them right now at 800-900-8000, 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. You can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be happy you did. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Let me be clear. Kamala Harris is desperate, and she is promoting the Hitler campaign strategy. That's what it is. That's what it needs to be called. So I would ask all the backbenchers in TV and radio and elsewhere, follow what I'm saying and repeat it. And I will not condemn you. I will be proud of you. I will encourage you. Kamala Harris and the Hitler campaign strategy. It's evil. It's diabolical. She doesn't give a damn if it results in another assassination attempt. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. What else? She doesn't give a damn if it divides this country in horrific ways. She could care less. Anything for power, America. They're power hungry. That's who they are. That's what they are. They're power hungry. Anything for power. We even have a situation here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. The district attorney, Heather Adams, held a press conference today. 2,500 potentially fraudulent voter registration applications were received near the deadline. How much more of this is going on? I asked the media in America, you have no shame? You have no decency? You always say, are you going to accept the next election? And when Republicans say, well, we got to see what happens, what about this? And what about this, you phony judges who won't even hear evidence? What about it? You think it's only happening in Lancaster County? When you have a Democrat Party that has an open border, when you have Democrat Party judges like this radical left-wing judge, Patricia Guile, the most radical judge in the Eastern District of Virginia, ruling that the law requires non-citizens to be on the voting list so they get to vote? Am I living in Alice in Wonderland here? What the hell is that? That's a corrupt judicial system with corrupt activist judges. That's what the hell it is. That's what it is. So they're running on the Hitler campaign strategy. They want the border wide open. They do not want voter ID. They do not want non-citizens removed from the list. What are we to make of this? We've never seen this in American history. The Democrat Party never did this before. It's controlled by Marxists and Islamists. Oh, and neo-Nazis. And neo-Nazis. And so now they're using the Hitler campaign strategy. Don't vote for Trump, he's Hitler. Don't vote for Trump, he's a fascist. Don't vote for Trump, he's a dictator. How many nut jobs are out there who keep hearing this? And then when he's elected, God willing, president of the United States, they're not going to accept the results. Why? Because he's Hitler. Because he's a dictator. Because he's a fascist. We can't have him in the presidency, can we? So we need to impeach him. We need to do everything possible to stop him. And they already have the slip and fall lawyers, the sleazy slip and fall lawyers at George Washington University Law School and elsewhere, who are plotting to sabotage his presidency already. But they believe in democracy, don't you know? We have to crush them at the ballot box, America. Those of you who are on the fence, get the hell off the fence. What the hell's wrong with you? You hate Trump more than you love your country? This is even bigger than Trump. Don't you understand what these people are trying to do? This is revolution. Revolution in every respect. Revolution by campaign strategy. Revolution by immigration. Revolution by lawfare. They don't play fair. They don't play by the rules. These are dangerous people. I don't know how much longer I'll be on radio with George Soros buying up radio stations and all the rest of it. But while I am, I'll be damned if I'm going to be quiet about this. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Lancaster County District Attorney Heather Adams at a press conference today. Go.
On Tuesday afternoon, I was contacted by Krista Miller, who is our Chief Clerk of Elections, regarding potentially fraudulent voter registration applications that had recently been received by her office. At that time, she informed me that the Elections Office received approximately 2,500 applications at or near the deadline for registering to vote. While preparing to process these applications, staff noticed that numerous applications appeared to have the same handwriting, were filled out on the same day with unknown signatures, and some were previously registered voters, excuse me, and the signatures on file did not match the signatures on the application.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of that, America? You think Republicans are doing this, Mr. Producer? Cut 10, go.
During this preliminary investigations, detectives were able to verify some of the applications were indeed legitimate. In these instances, the applicant verified that they did provide information to a canvasser. For these applications, we will immediately advise voter registration and that we confirm that they are legitimate requests, and voter registration will process that application. Mm-hmm. Thus far, of the investigations that we have completed, we have determined that 60% have been fraudulent. That is of the investigations that we've completed.
What do you think of that, ladies and gentlemen? Now, this is a real DA. I have no idea if she's a Republican or Democrat, but they're already stuffing the ballots. Now, who are they? Who did it? I'm serious. The Republicans have a history of doing this. Who is it that keeps fighting safety measures? Who is it that keeps fighting efforts to place security in these processes, voting ID, and no, non-citizens shouldn't be on lists? I want you to think about this. They support mobocracy, not democracy. This is what I keep pointing out. That's right. Tempe, Arizona today, yesterday, President Trump. Cut 11, go.
When Kamala came in, she deliberately dismantled our border and threw open the gates. She threw them open. The gates to an invasion of criminal migrants from prisons and jails, from insane asylums and mental institutions, from all over the world, from Venezuela to the Congo in Africa. A lot of people coming out of the Congo, not just South America. They're coming from 181 countries as of yesterday. Right, and we're a dumping ground. We're like a garbage
We're a dumping ground, and the Democrats do not want any security measures in place for voting. No, they voted that way. Now, I think 5 Democrats in the House voted for voter ID. The rest of them voted against it. What do you think about that, America? They literally voted against it. The vast majority of Democrats in the House. What is it that they know that we don't know? Nothing. We know the whole damn thing. We know why the border's open. The New York Times told us they're reshaping the electorate. They're power hungry. It's why they want to destroy the Constitution. The Constitution is built to protect you and me from them. That's why they want to destroy the Supreme Court. How dare the Supreme Court rule in a way that they don't agree with, or Biden and Harris don't agree with? So they need to destroy the Supreme Court. And she's going to stand there like it's January 6th and tell you the violence and cops were killed and so forth and so on when they weren't. Just like she lies about abortion. So women, let me tell you something. I want to tell the women. You guys, you can listen in, but I'm talking to women. She hasn't done a damn thing for women in this country. She's never done a damn thing for women in this country. She didn't do a damn thing for women as Attorney General or DA, and she's not doing a damn thing for women now but lying and misleading. There will be no national ban on abortion, and there will be no national codification of Roe, because they're not going to propose a codification of Roe. They're going to propose what they voted on in May 2022, infanticide, death after birth, no parental notification, and it gets worse from there. And that won't pass either. So the Dobbs decision will stay in place. There's more abortions than ever before, so the pro-abortion, anti-life crowd should be dancing in the streets. That's the bottom line. Nothing's going to change, not a damn thing, if she's elected president, God forbid, on the issue of abortion. Nothing. She's lying to you. You're suckers if you vote over this one issue and you think she's going to protect women's rights. She's destroyed women's rights since 1972, Title IX. That was the amendment to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to ensure women would have equal access and equal funding for athletics. And now they amended the law without legislation through executive order that allows boys and men in women's and girls' sports. That's what they've done. That's what they've done. It's outrageous. Parental rights, you mothers out there. Do you think the state, meaning the government, should have the power to determine whether your child should have a genitalia change without your notice? Because that's their damn position. And they're in bed with the AFT and the NEA right out of the box. Who do you think's going to be manning the precincts on Election Day? Why do you think there's no school on Election Day? The AFT and NEA. They have 2.5 million members, 1.5 million of whom are radical left-wing Democrats. They get money from them. They get an army of foot soldiers from them. They're owned and paid for by them. Obama was, Clinton was, and she is. They don't believe in parental rights when it comes to the kinds of books that they put in the library. Biden and Kamala Harris say, oh, these right-wing MAGA types, they believe in removing books, book burning. No, they believe in removing pornography. Books that are not appropriate for elementary school kids and middle school kids and even high school kids. Graphic pictures of all kinds of sex. No, we don't believe that should be in the library. And yes, it's true. We're the ones who want to remove the books. They're the ones that keep putting them in the library. And you're not to have any say. How do we know? My God, they issued a memorandum, the Attorney General, to all federal law enforcement that has the power to indict you, that has the power to depose you, that has the power to imprison you. You parents at school board meetings. They did this as a sop to the teachers' unions. Attacking your First Amendment rights, the right to free speech and association. You remember those pictures where cops taking down parents? One whose daughter had been raped in Loudoun County? Well, you're going to get more of this. Because if they win, they're going to think they have a mandate for these police state tactics. They don't believe in parental rights. So you ladies out there, and not all of you, obviously, but you know who I'm talking to. You ladies out there, I'm going to vote for Kamala. She's for women's rights. She's not for mothers' rights. She's not for women's rights. She's a liar on this abortion issue. I've already said I will bet her $10 million or $1 million, whatever she wants. She can get her money from George Soros, that Donald Trump will never sign a national ban on abortion. But she keeps campaigning on it. She's got her Hitler campaign strategy, and she's got let me lie to all the women in America strategy. Let me lie to their faces. Let me spend $1 billion lying to women. As long as I can get their vote, that's all I need. Let me emotionalize this issue. And that's what she's doing. That's all she cares about. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The big wireless carriers want to limit you to two choices when it comes to data, unlimited or unlimited. And guess what? Both are stupidly expensive. So folks, stop overpaying for data you're never going to use. That's like paying for a pot of coffee when you only need a cup, or filling your entire truck bed full of gas when you only need a tank. With Pure Talk, my cell phone company, you get to choose how much data you actually want. Listen to this. For just $25 a month, get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data, which is more than enough, plus mobile hotspot. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless and get America's best 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is easy. There's no contract. There's no activation fees. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month when you sign up with Pure Talk. This is breaking news. It looks like Israel has begun its attack on Iran. It looks like Israel's begun its attack on Iran. There are multiple reports, I'm looking at New York Times and elsewhere, that there have been explosions around Tehran. So it looks like Israel has begun its attacks on Iran. That's all I know right now. Obviously, I'm not going to know a lot, but we're going to keep monitoring this right up to the end of the program as we get additional information. But you recall, certainly their initial plans, the current regime was spying on Israel with spy satellites, and tapping into their communications. They put together 2 memos, and that also includes with Israeli information they were sharing with the United States national security folks, and it was leaked to Iran. And so then Israel obviously had to recalibrate. I have no idea if they told the United States they were going to begin attacking now. I doubt it. Biden, Harris, They've got a whole rat's nest of Iranian sympathizers at the State Department, at the White House, and the National Security Department office, in the Department of Defense. They have special pleaders for Iran. They have them in the media. Many of the people who surround Kamala Harris are Islamists who are sympathizers with Iran and haters of Israel and so forth. So Israel has to be very careful now what they communicate to this regime. So all we know, and I've looked around, Mr. Producer has looked around, despite the talking, is that it appears that the attacks have begun. That's the initial reporting. And around Tehran, there have been reports of explosions and so forth. It was only a matter of time, and it needed to happen. Let's see how the Hitler campaign strategy of Kamala Harris works. I just want people to know, as this begins to unfold, that Israel's really fighting with one arm tied behind its back, because the United States, under Biden and Harris, have withheld significant weapons from them. They've withheld replacements for their missile defense system, replacement missiles. They are really blackmailing Israel. They're threatening Israel. They're bullying Israel. They wanted Israel to have a symbolic response. Here's a country that has fired almost 400 ballistic missiles at Israel. A country that's getting a nuclear weapon, put one warhead on one of those missiles, and that's the end of the state of Israel. It's tiny. It's the size of New Jersey. That's it. And this administration is putting the arm on Israel. And Kamala Harris doesn't think they've gone far enough. Now, I don't know why people vote for Harris. I don't know why they want this regime to stay in power. There was peace in the Middle East breaking out between Arab states and Israel. Saudi Arabia was next to sign up. This administration comes in, just like on the border, they reverse every policy in Israel. You have October 7th, because it was funded by Biden and Harris. Sending all the wrong signals. That's why the hostages aren't out. Sending all the wrong signals. How do we know that? Because the head Islamo-Nazi in Hamas, he said so. Don't release the hostages. We got the Americans where we want them. Hence the Israelis where we want them. That's where they are. That's where they are. We'll continue. I'm telling you, I'm monitoring this, but I'm not going to keep repeating myself like people on TV and radio keep looping their own comments. It's not about me. We are monitoring this. As soon as I know more, and I'm looking, including in Israeli media, I will let you know. I will let you know. Let's go to Kamala Harris. He talks about these other countries treating America like a garbage can, and look how she twists it. And, of course, she's responsible for the open border. People make an excuse, well, she's vice president. She just has to back the president. No, that's actually not true, because in confidential meetings, a vice president can have a strong voice, and we've had strong vice presidents, and we've had idiots like Kamala Harris. Cut 12, go.
I also do want to address the comment that Donald Trump made about...
See, here's what she does. She tries to take a comment Trump makes and twist it to make him look like he's something that he's not. This is also the tactic of the demagogue and the propagandist who has no substance. Go ahead.
America being the trash can of the world, whatever he said, something along those lines. It's just another example of how he really belittles our country. This is someone who is a former president of the United States who has a bully pulpit. And this is how he uses it.
All right, I've had enough of her and her absolute pathetic stupidity. We have a man on the phone now. He's running for the Senate in Nevada. It's a fairly close election. Captain Sam Brown, who really offered his life for this country in Afghanistan. And he's now running for the Senate at great cost to him and his family. And, of course, he's under attack by another left-wing do-nothing buffoon who's spending millions of dollars attacking him. Sam Brown, how are you?
Mark, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's so exciting to see the historic turnout so we can get rid of Kamala Harris and retire Jackie Rosen. It's time to make America great again.
Okay, well, tell us what's taking place in Nevada.
Well, Mark, it's truly historic, and what I mean by that is in the last 20 years, Republicans have never led statewide in the early vote. And this cycle, we are about 70,000 votes ahead of where we were in 2020's presidential election. In other words, the Democrats had about a 50,000 voter turnout advantage 4 years ago. We're now leading by about 24,000 votes as Republicans. Turnout has just been incredible. There have been no reports of any sort of major election integrity issues. We have all of the momentum and build on it every single day. Republicans are fed up, and we're making our voice heard.
My only concern, Sam Brown, is when you talk like this, which I understand you're excited and I see the early voting numbers, you still have a ways to go. You got 10 days. You still have voting day. You still need people to vote early. And so there still needs to be some 100%. Level of urgency, no?
Oh, for sure. No, I am very excited, but I am also determined that we cannot let up. We cannot assume that this race has been won. It'll only be won when we have more votes than the Democrats after all the counting is done. But I want people to know that we do have an edge right now. We can keep an edge if we stay after. And that means everyone doesn't just – it's not just a matter of them voting. It's a matter of getting your neighbors, your family, your coworkers and friends. You got to get everyone who's been impacted by this Biden economy, by the Biden and Harris open border, by this idiotic energy policy, by the weakness of American leadership abroad. If you're tired of it, you've got to get everyone out to vote.
Now, if people want to help you in Nevada or nationwide, where do they go, Sam?
Look, we're in the fight of our life right now. Chuck Schumer is so concerned that they're going to lose this race. He just put another $4.5 million into it.
Where the hell do they get this money? It's so unbelievable. They're dropping money in all these states that are close, just dropping big tons of money. I've never seen anything like it. Anyway, go right ahead.
I know. It's the billionaires and super millionaires against us, the grassroots. And so our response, I'm asking for people to go to sendinSam.com. Look, this campaign started with the grassroots. It's been funded by the grassroots, and we'll win with the grassroots. If you can do $5, $10, $25, go to sendinSam.com, and we will win, not because we raise the most or spend the most, but because we get the most people to the polls to vote.
Amen. So in Nevada, if things are going great, you got to make sure you drag it across the finish line or you'll lose. Sam will lose. Trump will lose. This is a crucial Senate seat. It's a crucial electoral college state. Nevada is. That's why they're dropping millions more in. Please vote. Vote early, right up to Election Day. Get your friends. Get your family. Let's take this one. Sam Brown, God bless you. We wish you the best. I'll be right back. The big wireless carriers want to limit you to two choices when it comes to data, unlimited or unlimited. And guess what? Both are stupidly expensive. So folks, stop overpaying for data you're never going to use. That's like paying for a pot of coffee when you only need a cup, or filling your entire truck bed full of gas when you only need a tank. With Pure Talk, my cell phone company, you get to choose how much data you actually want. Listen to this. For just $25 a month, get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data, which is more than enough, plus mobile hotspot. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless and get America's best 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is easy. There's no contract. There's no activation fees. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month when you sign up with Pure Talk.
The Mark Levin Show, live and national at 877-381-3811.
Okay, I'm reading here, Israeli media, that Israel confirms that they're attacking Iran, that they're attacking military sites with precision. Blasts have been heard in Tehran, nearby Karaj. Explosions were also heard in Syria and Iraq. Israeli air defense systems have been activated, so have the systems in those other countries. 5 explosions were heard across Tehran. Now, this is a little bit old, but, you know, we're not going to get a play-by-play. And the city of Karaj nearby, according to Iranian media, and what is alleged to be the beginning of an Israeli retaliatory attack on Iran, and that has been confirmed by the Israeli IDF. Israeli officials confirmed to Army radio that Israel had started striking targets across Iran. Reports of explosions at the Imam Khomeini International Airport in the Iranian capital were also received. Arab media reported Israel attacked the location of the headquarters of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran as well. Let's see. A fire was reported in an Iranian Defense Ministry site in Tehran. Explosions were also heard in Syria and Iraq, as I'm pointing out now. So as it comes in, I will keep you informed. I guess the Israelis, I don't know, we can't know for sure, have decided not to hit the nuclear and oil sites. If we had a different president, that would have been done and this regime would be over. But look, I even have people write me, why don't they ignore Biden? They should, if they can. But they need the equipment to do what they're doing. It's a tiny country. They don't have a massive industrial center. So that's a fact. The Israelis also say they are ready for anything. Anything. Now, the Israelis will control the air pretty much, but the Communist Chinese Xi said today that they will stand by their friends Iran. The Russians have said the same thing. And unfortunately, the regime, our regime, talks out of both sides of its mouth. So it'll say that it is doing what it's doing, but it will not allow Israel to defeat Iran. It will not allow Israel to destroy its nuclear sites, and it will not allow Israel to take out their oil, which they sell to China, which China uses to build its military against us, and the money which Iran uses to build up its military. Quite a mess that's been created here by the Biden and the Kamala regime. Now, she'll come out, she'll be George Patton saying Israel has every right to defend itself. While she knows that Israel does not have every right to win, why she knows that she's surrounded by Israel haters, and she's one of them. And she's one of them. And let me tell you something. That will further incentivize the Iranians and all the other Islamo-Nazis that surround Israel to keep it up. Should she be elected? God forbid. Should she be elected? God forbid. So the IDF says it's conducting precise strikes on military targets in Iran. It is 4:40 in the morning in Israel right now, so it's still quite dark. It's dark, period, as they're striking Iran. This is so important. It is so important because Iran's been hiding behind Biden and Kamala Harris. Iran's been hiding behind Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. Iran has been hiding behind all of these entities, and now it's being struck militarily. It's being hit militarily. And I've got to believe, with the great Benjamin Netanyahu as prime minister and his great advisors, that these aren't going to be pinpricks, that these are going to be serious. And I've got to believe that if ballistic missiles are fired at Israel, that the response will be even more punishing. It's just amazing that this little country, what it has done under Benjamin Netanyahu in the last little over a year, since they were attacked on October 7th. Sinwar is gone, Nasrallah is gone, the entire leadership of Hezbollah is gone, pretty much of Hamas. There's one half of a battalion left in Gaza. They've destroyed so much of what is Hezbollah. They still have several thousand rockets. Remember, they had 150 to 200,000 missiles. But the Israelis, at great cost of IDF, of these young men dying, at great cost, they're pounding away. And they're doing so in a mechanical fashion, in a strategic fashion. They took out the leadership. Now they're taking out their finances. They're taking out their various headquarters. And they're tracking people down. This is what they're doing. And they use this, the brilliant technique, the blowing up of the pagers and the walkie-talkies. And with Iran, you got to believe that they gave this significant thought about how they're going to approach with the limitations by the backstabbing Harris regime. the limitations of the backstabbing Harris regime. In the meantime, Harris is still running her Hitler campaign strategy. Hitler campaign strategy. They've mentioned Hitler more than anybody else. And they're the ones with the neo-Nazis that hate the Jews. They're the ones trying to get the votes from the neo-Nazis in Dearborn, Michigan, and elsewhere. Look, I tell the truth. I speak the truth. They're the ones, Kamala Harris, who is surrounded by the neo-Nazis. That's what they are. That's what they are. They're animists toward the Jews. Well, animists like that, when Israel's trying to defend itself, the lives of its citizens, when we have our own Jews who are running and hiding and having to protect themselves, yes, that's what it is. There's no neo-Nazi event Sunday at Madison Square Garden. That's a patriotism event. You want to see a neo-Nazi event? Watch some of the caucus of the Democrat Party meeting in Congress. There's a neo-Nazi event. You want to see a neo-Nazi event? Look at the people who surround Kamala Harris, the Islamists, the Jew haters. They're neo-Nazis. What's the difference? On a time like this, a time of war, well, what would you call them? I call them what they are. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The big wireless carriers want to limit you to two choices when it comes to data, unlimited or unlimited. And guess what? Both are stupidly expensive. So folks, stop overpaying for data you're never going to use. That's like paying for a pot of coffee when you only need a cup, or filling your entire truck bed full of gas when you only need a tank. With Pure Talk, my cell phone company, you get to choose how much data you actually want. Listen to this. For just $25 a month, get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data, which is more than enough, plus mobile hotspot. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless and get America's best 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is easy. There's no contract. There's no activation fees. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month when you sign up with Pure Talk. The only thing I have to add right now, and I'm looking at sources in Israel here, is that the Israelis have underscored they're not hitting any energy sites. I guess they're not hitting any nuclear sites, I mean, as well. And also, I've learned that they informed our government that of the strike against Iran right before they began the strike. And that's the way they had to do it, because, they would be leaking to Axios and Barak Ravid. They'd be leaking to Politico. They'd be leaking to the Washington Post or the New York Times and the usual outlets, maybe CNN and CBS, which would, of course, undermine their ability to protect their people. So they're conducting these raids now. They are hitting military sites. They say they're being very precise about what they're doing. I don't think they're playing games. I think they're going to hit some substantial sites. And I know, I got to believe, but I'm sure that they're prepared that if Iran responds, that they're going to hit him again, and they're going to hit him harder. So, they're going to have other targets that they're preparing. And they own the air. The Iranians have spent all their money on ballistic missiles, on funding Hamas and funding Hezbollah and the Houthis and Iranian forces and other forces as they have been outsourcing their war against Israel and others. And I guarantee you that the Israelis have open airspace over Jordan, over some of these other countries, the UAE and so forth, because those countries fear that Iran will try and topple them too. And I can assure you that these so-called moderate Arab countries, these so-called Gulf state Arab countries, like the ones that joined in the Abraham Accords, and not one of them is pulled out by the way, not one of them. I can assure you that they're rooting for Israel. They cannot stand this Iranian regime. And I want to remind you, the Iranian regime is not an Arab regime. It's a Persian regime. It's also a regime that has brutalized its own people. It is a police state run by the military. And about 75% of the people there, maybe 80% of the people, are not supportive of this regime. So it has to be very careful It has to be very careful. Biden and Harris have defended this regime by not supporting the Israelis attacking their nuclear sites or their oil fields. But that would have toppled that regime, in my view. It would have toppled that regime, in my view. So they're left with the next best thing, which is to hammer the headquarters of their military and other locations as well. And it's also my understanding that over the course of a period of time that Khomeini himself has not been public. He doesn't travel the same way. In many ways, most often he's in hiding because he doesn't want to be taken out. Because the Israeli intelligence, their satellite systems, and all the rest of it are far superior to almost any other country on the face of the earth, in many respects even ours, because we buy some of their technology as well. Unfortunately, the Israeli people have had to put so much of their brain power, their energy, their engineers, their technicians, their military men and so forth into warfighting. Because it's a country that's in a constant state of war. Because of the enemies that surround it. Israel's sick and tired of these missiles coming in from Hezbollah. They want their people back, these hostages back, and they know the mothership is Iran, and they're sending another signal, which is, we dealt with Hamas, we're not done. We've dealt with Hezbollah, we're not done with them either, and we know you're involved, and we're hitting your ass too. And that's important. We should be cheering Israel as a people. I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis in our country, the Islamists. And by that, I don't mean the Muslims either. I've explained this 1,000 times. I mean the jihadists. The jihadists who hate our country, want the extermination of the Jews, and are carrying the flags of terrorist organizations and countries. Them. The would-be voters for Kamala Harris, who she's trying to appeal to. What I'm saying to you is this. We, the American people, they're fighting our enemy. Iran is our enemy. These terrorists have hit us on 9/11. They're our enemy. They've thrown in with the Soviet Union. So, yeah, exactly. Russia and China. We should be stating our unfettered support for what the Israelis are doing. And we should demand that this administration, whatever weapons that they're withholding, and I have a whole list of them, they must give them to the Israelis. We must demand that members of Congress insist that this administration immediate release to Israel all the weapons systems that we paid for and they paid for. That this unconstitutional impoundment and this boycott cannot continue to go on. We must insist. This is one of the reasons Donald Trump needs to be president of the United States. I don't believe any of this would be happening with Iran or Hamas or Hezbollah. They wouldn't have dared. And that's because he would have told the Israelis, you hit whatever you think you need to hit, but do it fast. And he would have agreed to taking down Iran. He would have agreed to taking out their nuclear sites. And the 30% of the United States Navy that's sitting there would be assisting them in any way that it could. I'll look at all the sites that I need to, including those in Israel and elsewhere. If there's any change, you'll hear it first. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome back, America. We do have a short statement from the IDF spokesman who just released this. Go.
In response to months of continuous attacks from the regime in Iran against the state of Israel, right now, the Israel Defense Forces is conducting precise strikes on military targets in Iran. The regime in Iran and its proxies in the region have been relentlessly attacking Israel since October 7th on 7 fronts, including direct attacks from Iranian soil. Like every other sovereign country in the world, the state of Israel has the right and the duty to respond. Our defensive and offensive capabilities are fully mobilized. We will do whatever necessary to defend the state of Israel and the people of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's nothing new I'm monitoring everything that's being put out or being reported, as you can imagine. Iran's about 1,200 miles away from Israel. A lot of this is happening under cover of dark, of course. And the reports will be minimal. And I notice right off the bat that neither Biden nor Harris have issued statements saying we support Israel's effort not just to defend itself, but to strike Iran, and we will do whatever we have to do to help them advance their effort. You'll never hear that. You haven't heard that Joe Biden's rushing back from Rehoboth Beach to get to the Situation Room, or Harris is getting off the campaign trail. Now, they're probably sitting around a table, all her flunkies, her grifters, her operators, probably saying, maybe it'll be better if you go back to Washington and you actually seem like you're doing something. We'll get pictures of you around the table in the Situation Room. Just remember who she really is. Just remember who she's surrounded with. It's very, very important that people remember this. Because our enemy, Israel's enemy, it's the enemy of humankind, they will be, I won't say provoked. They will look at her election as America saying, we're okay with this. They will look at her election with America saying, we're okay with anti-Semitism in the streets. They look at her as their special pleader. That's how their nuclear sites tonight and their oil sites tonight, as far as we know, are going untouched because of the Harris-Biden position. When in fact this is the perfect time to take out that regime, let the people overthrow it, and enough has been enough for almost half a century. Enough of the killing, enough of the terrorism, enough with all of it. Now, I suspect Israel's hammering the crap out of certain of their sites. I know Benjamin Netanyahu. Of course, he doesn't share information with me, but I know how he thinks, just as I know how Donald Trump thinks. They think like the rest of us. Bullies with weapons who slaughter people, who rape women, who burn children, who decapitate men, who take hostages, who rape them, who starve them, who execute them. We're not going to put up with that. None of this ceasefire crap. Ceasefire. No, I don't think so. You have to destroy the enemy. The sooner the better. This thing has gone on over a year because of Biden and Harris. It's gone on over a year because of the Democrats in Congress. It's gone on for more than a year because of the Democrats in the media. The Democrats in the media. And it's gone on because they need the vote of the neo-Nazis who walk around with the scarves over their faces, who carry Hamas and Hezbollah flags, who carry the flags of the Islamic Jihad and the Muslim Brotherhood, who burn the American flag, who deface George Washington and our heroes. Those people who are funded by Qatar, who are funded by Iran, who are funded by communist China. Those people who have found a home in the Democrat Party. I'm not kidding. Tlaib would be nowhere in the Republican Party. Omar, nowhere in the Republican Party. These are neo-Nazi Jew haters, and they're America haters, because they're Marxists and they're Islamists. Same with the Squad. The Squad. What a name. The enemy within, Trump talks about. The enemy within, Abraham Lincoln talked about. The enemy within, Jefferson alluded to, Reagan alluded to, anybody with two brain cells to rub together. They know we have an enemy within. Even Jim Mattis, who of course they're touting as a Trump hater, he wrote a piece in 2019 in The Atlantic. That anti-American screed. That's right, that's my view. That's what it is. Run by this guy, Jeffrey Goldberg, a phony journalist, in my opinion. Time and again, he demonstrates it. He's a hitman for the Democrats, that's all. It's that simple, as most of them are. He wrote a piece called The Enemy Within, didn't he, Jeffrey? Why don't you tell your friends on the left? He wrote a piece called The Enemy Within. Nobody said he was Hitler or a dictator. Nobody said, what is he talking about? What does he mean, that we're the enemy within? We have an enemy within. We certainly do. The Democrat Party is not a normal political party. It's an alien party. It represents everybody but we, the people. Now, I would ask Liz Cheney right now. I would ask Dick Cheney right now. Whose side are you on? What do you think? I would ask the Republican reprobates who hate Trump more than they love our country. What do they think? They've thrown in with the neo-Nazis in the Democrat Party. They've thrown in with the Islamists and the Marxists. They've thrown in with the men and women who hate our military. Traitors. That's what they are. Traitors. For decades. They got the support of conservatives and Republicans. For decades. The Barbara Comstocks of the world. Who's she? Trust me. Trust me. They want as a commander-in-chief the same people in communist China, the same people in fascistic Russia, the same people in the Islamo-Nazi regimes surrounding Israel want the same person for president that they do. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. She's the favorite of our enemies. And why wouldn't she be? She has surrounded herself with these people. Iran has a foothold in this administration. A spy nest. A spy nest. The Department of State has always been an anti-Semitic rat's nest. Worse today than ever before under Antony Blinken. A Soros puppet. A Soros puppet. That's right. His family's links to Soros. Sets up a foundation in Hungary. And guess who works for the foundation? That's right. This clown's parents. Antony Blinken, he brings Robert Malley, his boyhood friend, whose father was a Marxist who was sympathetic to the radical movements in the Arab world. And, of course, he raised a son, Robert Malley, who is too, who's under investigation, we think. The Biden regime won't tell us, for the misuse of classified information, who had spies under him who were communicating with the foreign minister of Iran through emails, asking them what kind of public releases they should put out, asking what kind of events they should attend, even if the Israelis are there. And one of them works at the Department of Defense, and this week was promoted. Promoted. While this regime cuts arms to Israel right now, while Russia, North Korea, and China are providing arms to Iran. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it before you vote, my liberal friends in New York, in Philadelphia, and in L.A. Think about it. It's easy to be an armchair, oh, I support Israel, here in the United States. But then you go into the ballot, into the booth, and you vote for the very people who want your extermination. They're standing in line with you, you dumb bastards. Don't you understand? I'm a Democrat. That means more to me than anything. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I have to admit, I'm partial to Dave McCormick. Known him for several years now. Gotten to know him real well. My family and I really adore him. We know he'd be a tremendous senator, a great attribute to the American people, the entire process. And one of his strengths, among many, economic, the border, is foreign policy. David McCormick looks like Israel has started its response attack against Iran, and the reports are coming in, and the IDF is saying it's going to be very targeted toward the military. Now, I guarantee you, if Donald Trump were president, it'd be targeted toward nuclear, oil, and the demise of this regime. But I still think Netanyahu is a tremendous leader. He's not going to do pinpricks, is he?
Yeah, no, thank God he didn't listen to Joe Biden and his saying we should have a ceasefire, that we shouldn't Israel shouldn't have taken out all the leadership of Hezbollah, killed the architects of the horrible tragedy and horrific brutality of Gaza in attacks into Israel, and that he's not influenced, let's hope he's not influenced Israel in taking it back to Iran. Iran is the original sin here. $100 billion of money we gave them in the deal that Obama did in 2015 The deciding vote was a guy named Bob Casey, Mark, and we're still living with the consequences of that. I got a lot of faith in Israel's military capacity and their leadership and the way they're systematically destroying this terrorist threat.
You know, my great fear, Dave McCormick, is people like Bob Casey. They lie to their constituents. They pretend, they speak out of both sides of their mouth. They pretend that they're these big supporters of Israel, but of course he's not. You've pointed out that he supports a real, in my view, neo-Nazi Islamist out there in Pittsburgh. Her name is Lee. Yeah. But the fact is, he'll fall right in line with the Kamala Harris. They will continue to boycott Israel, withhold weapons, threaten Israel, on and on and on. This is dire for our country and Israel, this election, isn't it?
100%. This is a friend of mine said this the other day. He said October 7th was like a flare went up on the battlefield. And you actually see who your friends are and who your foes are. And it's a two-front war. We have to stand by Israel in truly an existential moment. Its very existence is under siege from Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran. All these terrorist proxies are attacking Israel, and we need to show absolute conviction in their fight, which is our fight, to destroy these terrorists. But we also have a fight at home with this anti-Semitism, which, listen, I certainly knew it lurked beneath the surface, but I was shocked by what we saw after October 7th and the weakness, a lack of moral clarity of our leadership, and none is weaker than Bob Casey, who stands up and says, I'm strong on Israel, and then endorses Summer Lee. And when she says the most anti-Semitic things post-October 7th, he doesn't withdraw his endorsement. You can't have it both ways. This is a test. It's one of those tests you can't study for. October 7th was a test, and we saw where people stand, and we got a lot of weak leaders without moral convictions who don't stand with Israel and who don't stand against anti-Semitism, and we need to get them the hell out of office.
And this guy's like a press release senator, isn't he? I mean, you see senators going to the floor. You see great senators like Tom Cotton and Ted Cruz and others. Full-throated support for Israel, fight to get them the arms that they need. You now have an administration that is literally right now impounding weapons unconstitutionally from Israel and so forth. You're the kind of guy that will go to the floor with your background, your military experience, your business experience. You're not going to be afraid of anything. You'll say what you need to say. This guy, Bob Casey, look at him. He's like a nebbish.
Yeah, he's a 30-year career politician, 30 years in elected office, 18 years in the Senate. And the best I could say about him, Mark, is he's weak. When the bullets start flying, he ducks. And yet he votes 98% of the time with the liberal, radical agenda of Biden and Harris. And if, God forbid, if Harris were president, he would vote 99% of the time with her extreme liberal policies. But more than that, he's not a leader. So the contrast is clear. Do you want change? Do you want a guy who's a West Point graduate, a combat veteran, a seventh-generation Pennsylvanian, someone who's been a successful business guy, and an outsider who's going to fight for change? Or do you want a career politician who is going to support the status quo or worse, a tip into this radical liberal agenda that we're already seeing how it's destroying our country? That's the choice. And I think the reason my race is closing and that, it's a toss-up now, and I think the momentum's clearly on my side, is people are seeing that choice much more clearly. Change versus the status quo, strength versus weakness, common sense policies versus a radical liberal agenda under Kamala Harris and Bob Casey.
I saw what happened to Norm Coleman, Senator Coleman, when he won re-election and they stole it from him by constant challenging, getting in front of Democrat state judges who kept recounting until he won. And then we get Al Franken, of all people. I'm concerned about this. Number one, the numbers in Pennsylvania, you're monitoring them. How do they look in terms of early voting? I know the registration has been good. And number two, the ground game and the legal fare that goes, the lawfare and so forth. How do you look at that? What do you see?
Well, listen, I don't think we can be too paranoid about this. I think we got to be so vigilant. But the registration numbers have been shockingly good in our direction. We're becoming a red state. If you have me on your show in 2026 as Pennsylvania's next senator, we're going to be red. That's how fast it's moving, Mark. So that's good. On mail-in ballot, we've closed the gap dramatically. New registrations for mail-in ballots and submitting mail-in ballots, Republicans are actually out-submitting Democrats in some days on mail-in ballots. So they're still going to have the advantage. It's going to be a lot less. Election integrity, I'm worried about. I mean, we've got a huge investment here. We're going to have 5,000 election observers, 500 lawyers. It's President Trump's top priority. It's mine. But we got 67 counties, and some of those counties, have had a history of election fraud, and we got to be very vigilant to make sure that we get a fair election. And what I can say is there's focus and resources, but we got to play whack-a-mole. Anytime there's any indication of anything going amiss, we got to challenge it. We got to have the lawyers right there. We got to have the observers right there, and make sure President Trump and I and everybody else on the ticket gets a fair shot.
Talking to Dave McCormick, one of the problems is your Supreme Court. It's extremely partisan. I think it's a 5-2 majority. The Republicans didn't pay attention, and so you get this radical left-wing court. They did the same thing in 2020. So in some respects, I think you really need to find a federal cause of action or something like that to get it after the state system.
Mark, you and I both know we need voter ID. I mean, the fact that in our country, you need an ID to get on an airplane, an ID to cash a check, and you don't need an ID to exercise the most fundamental responsibility of a citizen, which is to vote, is just evidence of how bankrupt the Democratic Party is. And Bob Casey, they've opposed voter ID because it stands in the way of voter fraud. And if you really wanted high-integrity elections, you'd embrace voter ID, and the Democrats won't. And that is one of the big problems and one of the things I'll fight for. I know President Trump has said this. I will be on day one supporting national legislation on the voter ID.
Now, you would be a tremendous senator, and I want the people of Pennsylvania, the whole country, to understand this. I deal with folks all the time. They're running for office and everything. Dave McCormick is a step above. If you want to help him, it's DaveMcCormickPA.com. Dave, McCormickPA.com. Dave, I want to hold you over. I won't hold you long. I know you got people to visit. We'll be right back with Dave McCormick.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with Dave McCormick, running for the Senate in Pennsylvania. I strongly encourage you to vote for him. I've endorsed him strongly. It's early voting. And, of course, President Trump and the whole down ticket. We need to do well in Pennsylvania. We can. If you patriots out there, if you do your thing, do it now and get other people to do it. Dave McCormick, Kamala Harris and Biden are dangerously unserious people. He's heading off to Delaware. He hasn't turned around. She's on stage with Beyonce. She's the vice president. They can say whatever they want about J.D. Vance. That's the president and the vice president. Are they acting presidential and vice presidential? Should they have a statement? I don't mean a statement issued by one of their flacks. I mean, even go on TV and make a statement. We support Israel. Israel will fight this war as it sees fit. We know they'll do what they need to do, and we will support them in their victory.
Yeah, it's not serious. It's not serious people dealing with the serious problems of the world. And President Biden seems like he's sort of out to lunch, and Kamala Harris is not engaged on the issues in a way that you would hope and expect and pray of the vice president. And listen, two things are problematic here. One is we know what she believes. We've seen her in her own words in the last few years talk about banning fracking, transitioning energy workers. We've talked about defunding the police. We've seen her say she wants to legalize illegal immigrants, give them citizenship. She wants to make sure they have federal benefits. She wants to confiscate the guns. These are her own words. But now when we see her in the spotlight, when she's running for the most important office in the world, she can't take a serious interview. She can't answer a serious question about what to do with the future of America. And certainly our adversaries are noticing this, and this is what I'm most worried about. We have adversaries around the world that are testing us. Iran's testing us. Russia's testing us. China's testing us, rattling its saber. And it's because they think America's weak. They saw the debacle in Afghanistan. They saw the invasion of Ukraine, which would have never happened under President Trump. They saw the surveillance balloon floating over American territory, over military bases for 10 days. It's not a serious bunch of people that are securing America. We need peace through strength. We can only have it through strength. We learned that on the playground when we were kids, and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they exude weakness. And I'm truly worried about a world, even for the next, until President Trump takes office, that this will be a moment where our adversaries really try to test us. This is a serious time. These are not serious people.
Apparently, Israel gave a heads up to our administration right before it attacked because they can't trust them. They will leak it. And that's why it took them this long in the first place, because they leaked it before. And you would think with that kind of a heads up, at least one of these knuckleheads would decide to take control of this. Now, here's my prediction. I could be dead wrong. I'm not good at predictions. Let me suggest this to you, Dave McCormick, that at some point, but of course way out of the necessary time frame, Kamala Harris will make some kind of statement and look very, stern, or Joe Biden will mumble something, but they'll do it too little, too late, and not substantive enough. That's my guess.
Yeah. Well, they have not had the clarity. They have not given their unequivocal support to Israel in the existential fight of its life. They have tried to show there's equivalence between what's happening with Israel's attacks against the terrorists that killed 1,200 people on October 7th, and Israel's attacks on those terrorist fighters in Gaza, in Hezbollah, in Lebanon, and so forth. So there's not moral clarity, and there's not strength. And so when you don't have moral clarity and strength, you get these kind of wishy-washy statements. These leaks that come out about President Biden wanting a ceasefire and so forth. This is absolutely the opposite of what we would have if President Trump was in office. And if I was in the Senate, I would be an incredibly strong voice on these things, because that's the way it works with the use of power. You have to use power thoughtfully. You have to use it carefully. You have to use it respectfully. But you have to know how to wield power. Biden and Harris don't know how to wield power, and we've lost power under their leadership.
Now let's get to the border and the economy in the few minutes we have left. Your opponent has done nothing and did nothing. That's the bottom line to help secure this border. Nothing. He voted for this phony bipartisan bill, which would have allowed 20 million illegal aliens in. And nobody talks about chain migration. Have you noticed that, Dave?
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So these people get amnesty, or they have children, and you can bring in, on average, it's 19 people. You can bring in more. I mean, that is an overwhelming number. We've got these Venezuelan gangs, MS-13, fentanyl pouring into the country. God knows what's going on. And Bob Casey sits on his ass. And then when it comes to the economy, they really think that using the Department of Justice, that's the way you're going to bring down prices, going after farmers and going after small grocery stores and everything else. What's your response to that?
Mark, I couldn't agree more. On the border, I've looked at all the dimensions. The national security risk that we now have because of the leadership of Biden, Harris, and Casey is beyond anything people understand. I'll just give you one statistic. 4,000 Pennsylvanians last year died of the fentanyl poison, 116,000 nationally. You and I both remember Vietnam. We lost 58,000 killed in action in Vietnam. We had 2 Vietnams last year because of these cartels sending this poison across our borders, pushers putting it into our communities. Medina and I sat down my wife and I, in the last 2 months with a number of fentanyl families.
By the way, who's also an accomplished professional, particularly when it comes to foreign policy and national security. I just want people to know.
Oh man, she's the better half, and to say accomplished, she served as President Trump's deputy national security advisor and had the opportunity to be part of the team that worked on the Abraham Accords. So she is a force of nature. But this fentanyl thing, Mark, this has to be taken seriously on the supply side. We got to secure the border, but we got to go after these cartels. We need to determine them to be terrorist organizations. We need to use drones and special operations and destroy them. We need to deal with the demand side and the addiction problems, the mental health problems we have in America. We need to deal with the harm mitigation by having Narcan and all these things available to our communities. This is a problem of epic proportion, and Bob Casey has done nothing, and it's gotten much worse in Pennsylvania. Inflation's the same. Listen, the line of accountability here is clear. $5 trillion of reckless spending plus a war on fossil fuels drove up prices to a 40-year high. And guess who is hurting? Working families. 60% of Pennsylvanians live paycheck to paycheck. So people who live paycheck to paycheck have gotten squeezed. Higher prices for food, rent, fuel, electricity. Their wages haven't kept up. Seniors on fixed income. It's a disaster for them. Bidenomics is not working. It's failing. The people it's helping are rich people that live in Washington, D.C. and New York and San Francisco. It's hurting working families across Pennsylvania.
Folks, you can help Dave McCormick, who will be such a tremendous senator. Dave McCormick, PA.com. Dave McCormick, McCormick, PA.com. It's going to come down, I think, to very, very few votes in the state of Pennsylvania. That's the way it works. It's my home state, too. You really got to turn out in red areas and in moderate to conservative Democrat areas. You know, America, all the Democrats in Pennsylvania aren't from Philadelphia. There's a lot of people who are blue-collar, who are union, people of great faith. They're Catholic, they're Jewish, and so forth and so on. That's why so many of them are not happy with the radicals and the leftists in the Democrat Party. They're not represented by those people, and yet Bob Casey has thrown in with them, and your big job has been, Dave McCormick, to explain to all the folks in Pennsylvania, he's not his father's son. He is a radical leftist that might as well represent Massachusetts or California. Final words, my friend.
Hey, listen, thank you, Mark, for having me. Thanks for all you're doing. This is a race, the most important, I believe, of our lifetimes, this election. And in my particular case, this is change versus the status quo, strength versus weakness, and an outsider combat vet versus a career politician. We need change. Honored to do it. Be honored to serve the great people of Pennsylvania if they put me in there, and I sure hope they do, and I'd love to serve them as their next senator. So thanks for the opportunity.
You'd be fantastic. Dave McCormick, thank you, my friend. You take care of yourself.
You, have a great night.
You too. Pennsylvania, they say the Keystone State is the key to everything. And I'm sitting here listening to the Secretary of State of Pennsylvania, who's a rhino, say, well, we won't have results for 4 days. You know what? If you vote early, you bank your vote, you got your result, you're in there. You don't have to worry about long lines on Election Day. You don't have to worry about any lines on Election Day. You don't have to worry about anything. And on top of that, I know, my fellow Pennsylvanians, you're people of community. You're people who care about your country. You're the people who line your streets with the American flag and so forth and so on. Well, we need you to do that. We need you to get your neighbors out. We need you to be the patriots that you've always been, regardless of the walk of life you come from. You're a patriot. And I'm your fellow Pennsylvanian. Please vote early. Vote early. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
And I remind you as we wind up the program and we get ready for Ray Charles, this is the weekend where early voting should take place. Yours, family members, and others. You have a phone. You can call, text, email. You need to be the block captain. You don't need somebody to tell you to do this. This is your country. You need to save it. I need to save it. And together we can save it. They say Pennsylvania is the key. All these states are the key. But let's do what we have to do, America. And let's start this weekend. If you haven't voted early, please vote early and get others to do the same. And in honor of you, the patriots who are going to do all these things, which isn't really a lot, just a little. We go to America every Friday in honor of you. Here we go. an official Levin surge. We don't do this often this weekend. If you haven't voted and you can, vote now. Early voting, take the system they created and beat them at their system. We need to turn out en masse. Help other people to vote. You can do this. You are patriots. And don't forget Life, Liberty, and Levin, 8 p.m. tomorrow night Eastern, 8 p.m. Sunday night Eastern. 2 big shows. Set your DVR or your smart TV recording, okay? We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women of Ukraine, our brothers and sisters in in Israel. Kick their damn ass. Good night, Spritey and Griffey and Pepsi and Smokey. Good night, Zelda, Indy, Patton and Rory and Gigi, little Barney and Big Marty. Good night, Dad. Good night, Mom. Good night, Leo. Good night, Joe, and all the other wonderful people who've been in our lives. And thank you, the great American people. Vote early. See you tomorrow night.